What's up, guys? It's your boy, Barca Boy 103. Today we're going to be doing the match preview for Barcelona versus Royal Antwerp in the Champions League. The 23-24 Champions League campaign does begin now, where Barcelona, of course, do have big aspirations to go deep in this competition, or at least get out of the group stages this year. Of course, this will be the last year that the Champions League will be in this format. Of course, next year and from the years after that, it will be in a league format. So it's a very historic final moment in the Champions League, where Barcelona again do have ambitions to proceed very far during this tournament. But before we get into it, make sure you guys smash that like button down below. Let's try to get to 200 likes in this video. Be very much appreciated. And also, if you're new, make sure you subscribe down below if you haven't already, and let's get into it. Kickoff time for this match will be taking place at 9 p.m. local time, so your regular kickoff time in the Champions League, and this match will be taking place at the Estadi Lluís Olímpic Stadium in Montjuic, which of course is the home of Barcelona, and will be hosting its first ever Champions League matchup. And the referee for this match has also been confirmed on the pitch. It will be the Romanian referee Radu, who did referee Barcelona in the Champions League last season in our away win against Victoria Plzen against I believe it was a 4-0 result, and it will have a Romanian company on the VAR as well. And as you all know, in the Champions League, Barcelona have been seeded in Group H, and our three other opponents in the group are FC Porto, Shakhtar Donetsk, and of course our opponents tomorrow, Royal Antwerp. We have been given on paper a somewhat of a manageable group for the first time in God knows how long, and again, Barcelona should and have to be coming top of this group 100%. As we all know, we do play every team twice, and the schedule for the Champions League has of course already been confirmed, and it's very much, you could say, in the favor of Barcelona. You could say, of course, the most difficult opponent in this group is Porto, and that will be our next match, and it will be away on October 4th. I think playing the most difficult match in this group straight off the bat, very important. We do have our double header against Shakhtar Donetsk, and again, we are going in the home away format. I would have liked to have the last group game at home. That way we probably could have rested some players, but again, hopefully we've already topped the group by that last game against Royal Antwerp away. That way we can make some heavy rotation going into the other league matchups during that week. Again, Porto will be our second last game at home, so I think the draw is very favorable. I think the most important thing was getting that Porto away match quickly done over as soon as possible. I'm not saying Barcelona are going to lose or anything like that, but of course it is a very difficult matchup away in Portugal against a decent Porto side as well, so getting that out of the way very quickly is important. Double header against Shakhtar. Now of course Shakhtar Ukrainian side, but I believe they are playing in a Germany stadium, as there is of course still unfortunately a war going on in Ukraine. So again, the travel time for the Barcelona players isn't too bad, and I think the schedule is very much in the favor of Barcelona. And overall, I think this should be a group where Barcelona should be coming out on top. They could have maybe a draw here, maybe a weird loss here, but this has to be Barcelona topping the group. Anything other than that would be absolutely shameful. Even if we come second, because again, if you want to come first, that way you can face, you know, lesser quality teams in that round 16, because we got to get to the quarterfinals minimum. We need that Champions League money. When you get to the quarterfinals, I think you get like around 50-60 million euros. So topping the group, absolutely crucial, and that is the main objective for Barcelona, and hopefully by the middle of December we did in fact reach that objective. Let's now take a look at our opponents in Royal Antwerp. If you don't know, Royal Antwerp are a Belgium side. They're one of the top teams in the Belgium Pro League. They are currently sat in 5th place in the Belgium Pro League. Again, they've only just started the season. They played 6 matches in total. They have 11 points. Out of those 6 matches, they've won 3, drawn 2, and lost 1. If you look at their last 6 games in all competition, they are undefeated. At the beginning of the month of August, they beat a team 6-0. They drew 1-1. They beat AEK Athens 1-0 in the Champions League qualifier. That's how they got into the Champions League. I believe they finished 3rd in the Belgium Pro League last season. If you don't know the story about the Belgium Pro League last season, it was all over the place in the final day. I think at some point Royal Antwerp were champions of Belgium, but then they ended up finishing 3rd in the final match day. But again, in total, you could say they did beat AKE Athens 3-1 on aggregate, then drew 2-2. And also their last match they did play on Friday, so a day before Barcelona, where they did end up winning 3-0. So again, they are on a good streak at the moment. They do have a new manager as well. We'll talk about that later on, but they're very, well-established team in the Belgium Pro League. Again, beating AEK Athens in the Champions League qualifiers is no mean feat. We've seen AEK Athens in the Champions League multiple times over recent years. That's, of course, a big thing for them, winning both matches home and away. So this is not going to be any easy mean feat, you could say. Now, if you take a look at the last 3 matches in all competition, firstly is that second leg against AEK Athens in the Champions League, which they won 2-1 away from home. Again, they do play in a 4-2-3-1 system, but at this time they did have a different manager, which we have to, of course, take into consideration. This match was actually very even. I believe AEK Athens went up first, so that's, of course, bringing the aggregate score to 1-1. In the end, Royal Antwerp did make that comeback, and they celebrated it like they won the Champions League, because, of course, they got into the Champions League, I believe, for the first time in their history, if I'm not mistaken, maybe second or third time. So again, very historic win for them, and they did it in a very fantastic way, in, of course, an away match, and of course dominating their opponent, especially in that second half. Next up is their league match, where they ended up drawing 2-2. Again, new manager still hasn't come in quite yet, so you can't really analyze this too much. Again, still similar for a system in the 4-2-3-1 away from home. Again, they weren't getting on their feet. The midfield and the attack wasn't up to the par. Again, you're coming off that historic win midweek against AEK Athens, so maybe it's an understandable a little bit of drop points in the Belgium league. And again, their goalkeeper did have a very good match, because of course the other team were throwing in pelters, and he was making some absolutely worldly saves. Now, their final match in all competition was, of course, a 3-0 victory, where they played away from home, and again they did play on Friday. I'd also like to highlight as well, if you look at their last 3 matches, they're all away from home as well. So they have been on the road for quite a while, and they will continue on the road as they are traveling to the Olympic Stadium in Montjuic. But again, they did play on Friday, 24 hours before Barcelona's match against Betis, so they do have a bit of that extra rest. But now, new managers in, they are still playing the same system, but you do see there are some different personnel, 4-2-3-1 system. So they have their wingers, of course, providing that depth. They have a double pivot, the creative midfielder, the striker, fullbacks are overlapping. Sometimes the pivot will be dropping into the middle. Again, this was a very comfortable win for them. There was no real difficulties in this match. I only ended up watching the highlights, and didn't watch the game. But again, they're very well worked side, they're very well coached, and again, they are filled with experience and also young talent. So overall, final thoughts on Royal Antwerp. They're a very good side, and they are managed by a former Barcelona and Champions League winner with Barcelona, Mark van Bommel. He was just appointed, I believe, on September the 1st as the Royal Antwerp manager, a day after the Champions League group stage draw, and he was appointed by another former Barcelona player in Mark Overmars, who is the sporting director, technical director of Royal Antwerp. Again, so Mark van Bommel has only been in the job about 18 days. Again, he's already played against Barcelona as a manager back when he was the PSV manager in the 2018-19 season when we had PSV. Of course, Luke de Jong was their striker at the time. I believe we won both games, if I'm not mistaken. I think we won at the Camp Nou. The second leg, away leg, but a bit of a draw. I think we did end up winning that game when Messi scored that had that weird free kick with PK and all that stuff. But anyway, so Mark van Bommel has played against Barcelona. He has lost twice. So again, this is a coach that we know very well. I think everyone who's won a Champions League with Barcelona does have a special place in all of our hearts. He was actually very important that season when Xavi got injured. He was a starter. He played in the Champions League final, so he does have some connection to Barcelona. Only played for 2 seasons though. But again, I would say he's an okay coach. Of course, the PSV didn't go well for him. He ended up getting sacked, took some months off of coaching, and now he's back with Royal Antwerp. Again, you could see he's only gotten the job because his friend Mark Overmars hired him, so there is a bit of that. But again, he's only been in the job about 18-19 days. You can't really look into it too much. But again, his track record recently has been okay. He did okay with PSG, but then fell off. PSV, but then of course fell off and ended up getting the sack, of course. Now, players to look out for, there is quite a few players. Firstly, their captain, Toby Alderweireld, the very experienced center back, had a lot of time with Tottenham Hotspur, got to a Champions League final, of course, in 2019. One of the best center backs, you could say, over the last 10 years in the Premier League. Of course, in the pivot, Arthur Vermeeren, who has been heavily linked with Barcelona. Now's your time to watch him, see how he plays, and whether or not you think he's good enough for Barcelona. They also, of course, have Wijndal at left back, who's currently on loan from Ajax, who has also been linked with Barcelona a few times, so you got to keep an eye out for him. Of course, their striker as well, Vincent Janssen, former Tottenham Hotspur striker, very experienced striker, and he has been very clinical for Royal Antwerp in recent matches as well. So they do have some personnel to look out for, and again, they do have, I think, a center back on loan from Borussia Dortmund, Koulibaly, I think think his name is, if I'm not mistaken. He's a very young center back. He has a very high ceiling. Yeah, of course, their wingers are very, very fast and do have the ability for 1v1 dribbling. So again, their team on paper isn't too bad, filled with experience, have some good young talent. And again, for Barcelona, it's just down to them using their aura, using their experience, using their talent, which you know is much better than Royal Antwerp, and beating them on the night. It's a very, very simple game for Barcelona. Of course, you gotta go on the attack, finish your chances, create those chances. I would keep an eye on Royal Antwerp on the break. I don't think they're, you know, as clinical as you might expect. I think they are quite fast on the break. So again, keeping the high line, making sure that none of their wingers have that space, and Barcelona should be, you know, fine in this match. Let's now take a look at the squad list. The squad list for this match has been released and confirmed, and it is as follows: Ter Stegen, Cancelo, Balde, Martinez, Gavi, Ferran, Lewandowski, Raphinha, Peña, Felix, Christensen, Alonso, Romeu, Roberto de Jong, Gundogan, Koundé, Astralaga, Yamal, Casado, and Fermin Lopez. From the last squad list, of course, a few players have not been included because in the Champions League you can only have a certain number of players, but the main absents, of course, are still Araujo and Pedri. More specifically, Araujo, he did complete the full training session this morning, but Xavi has not called him up. He's not going to risk him whatsoever, but he should be available this weekend against Celta Vigo. So overall, no real surprises from the squad list. Again, we're still missing 2 key players, but one of them should be coming back very, very soon. Time now to get into the press conference reaction of the player selected in the Champions League, and that is Oriol Romeu. As you all probably know by now, a player always accompanies the manager in Champions League pre-match press conferences, and today Romeu was selected. So let's get and see what our new signing had to say in the presser this morning. He came out saying the team is feeling optimistic of doing a job in Europe and doing better than recent years. That means reaching the final phases and competing against the top teams. We want to start the competition well, be the leaders from the first day, and show our quality on the pitch. Then asked, of course, about the two Joaos. The two Joaos really want to come. They both have a high level, each of their own characteristics. They contribute a lot to us. And he's talked about his time at Southampton. When you go to Southampton, having your head that one day you're going to play for Barcelona is hard to imagine. I really want to start this competition, which is very nice for all players. Everyone has to know their role. I think there are things that I can improve, and as the season progresses, it will be noticeable. We are with many new players who have to adapt, but little by little. Then asked about his relationship with Frankie de Jong. Said that we have a great relationship. He's open, kind, friendly, all like my other teammates as well. In the dressing room, he's great. On the pitch, he's incredible. He always gives you the ball in the right conditions. One of the best in Europe. He is a leader. He then asked about Gavi, saying that Gavi is an incredible player. He puts intensity on every action, every match. He's always there between the lines, well placed. It is difficult to play at his level, especially at his age. He then says the squad is thin, but the manager does have some options. If the injuries respect us, the squad that we have is very good, and it will allow us to play differently depending on matches. The objective again is to continue along with the same lines as in the match against Betis, be aggressive, dynamic, and offensive. And finally, Romeu concluded all by saying that looking at Antwerp's players little by little, they do have 2 young wingers. They handle pressure well, they're used to winning games, and they will surely give us some difficulties. And that concluded Oriol Romeu's pre-match press conference reaction and the match against Royal Antwerp tomorrow. Time now to get into Xavi's press conference reaction. Of course, alongside Romeu, he did his press conference this morning. He's asked a lot of questions from the media, so let's not beat around the bush. Let's get right into what the Gavi had to say this morning in the presser. He came out saying it's time now to step up in the Champions League tomorrow. The players are very enthusiastic. We must not have an obsession. We must be ourselves and impose our personality. The goal for now is to pass the group stages, and after that, we will talk. Last year in Europe, we were good in terms of play, but not in results. Now we have strengthened ourselves, and we have to show that we can compete and fight for it. Then asked about Mark van Bommel, saying that I have great memories with him as a teammate and as a rival. Now we have his team, and it will be a very dynamic rival with youth and experience. I like challenges, and I want to compete for this Champions League. We have players in very good shape, the whole team, especially the people up front. Everyone is engaged, and that was what makes me the most proud. We even have alternatives to change as well. Ferran told me that in the summer that he needed to have a great preseason. We gave him the necessary time to demonstrate his intentions of wanting to do well. His attitude and work has always been there. He is and he will be important for us. Xavi was then asked on a fitness update on Araujo, who again this morning did complete the full training session. He said that look, we could have forced Araujo to play tomorrow, but it's not worth it. On Saturday, he will be available. The arrival of Cancelo in terms of the system has not changed anything. We did it with Koundé, Araujo, Sergio Roberto. In the end, only the profile and names change. Each one gives their variety. But again, there is a big difference to having Koundé, Araujo, and Roberto right back compared to Cancelo, because Roberto is shite, Araujo is not a right back, and Koundé is barely a right back either. He was then asked on Joao Felix, and if you don't have an attitude, you can't be in the team. In mine at Barcelona, the attitude must always be positive, and his is like everyone else's, positive and wanting to help the team. Then asked on an injury update on Pedri, saying that Pedri is doing very well. He has good feelings, but he still has a bit of work left for him. It is important that he recovers at 100% rather than as soon as possible, as best as possible. If we play the level that we played on Saturday in Europe, we will also be able to compete. This is what we have to do, give continuation to this level of play and be able to compete at the highest level. And finally, Xavi was asked on the contract renewal of Balde and Lamine Yamal, which again, I am still shocked that we are talking about this. He said, as far as I know, the renewals of Lamine Yamal and Balde are well underway and there will be official news soon. Let's hope so. And that concluded Xavi's press conference reaction ahead of the match against Royal Antwerp tomorrow. Let's now get into the lineup prediction. We're going to start with the manager, of course, Xavi Hernandez. I'm going to try my best to predict his lineup. I think it will be very simple to predict, barring maybe a couple of changes. Again, we just came off the back of a 5-0 win over the weekend. Will Xavi change anything from that lineup or not? That is the big question. I think Xavi will. I've gone with this lineup on the screen right now that Xavi will select. I've gone with Ter Stegen in goal, a back four of Cancelo, Koundé, Christensen, Alejandro Balde, midfield three of Romeu, De Jong, and Gundogan, and a front three of Raphinha, Lewandowski, and Gavi. I think Xavi will go back to his old ways, especially with it being the Champions League. I think he will put the forward midfield back into selection. You have to keep in mind that essentially Gundogan and Raphinha kind of have to start this game because they are two very high profile players who we do pay a lot of money. Again, Felix, Varane, they're kind of second string players who are doing well. They should be rewarded for that, but I think that Xavi will prioritize having the big names in the squad. I really hope I'm wrong. Of course, Romeu did the press conference, so very, very high chance that he will start this match, but we have seen in the past that Xavi does have players do the press conference and not start the match. Nonetheless, I would be shocked if the lineup is anything like this. Of course, it could be an actual left-sided winger, whether it's Ferran Torres or Joao Felix. I think dropping both of them after their match against Betis is very difficult, but I think in the end Xavi will do so. Again, he was saying in the press conference how difficult this lineup will be because everyone is playing well. But in the end, you have to start the high-profile players. I think Xavi will do this. I pray that he doesn't. I would love to see some of the players get rest as well. Again, it is Royal Antwerp. It should not be a difficult match for Barcelona. But again, this lineup will definitely get the job done, but it will get it in a very, professional way and not the fun that we had, of course, against Betis. But that's the lineup I think that Xavi Hernandez will select for this match. But of course, in the comments down below, let me know what you think Xavi will go with. Now I'm going to show you guys my lineup, what I would do if I was the Barcelona coach, and I have made a few changes from Xavi's lineup selection. I have gone with this lineup on the screen right now. I've gone with Ter Stegen in goal, a back four of Cancelo, Christensen, Inigo Martinez, Alejandro Balde, midfield three of Romeu, Gundogan, and Gavi, and a front three of Raphinha, Lewandowski, and Ferran Torres. So I picked a very similar lineup to the one that we did against Betis, but I have made, I think, two crucial changes. I have put Frenkie de Jong and Jules Koundé on the bench. Look, these are probably the two best Barcelona players right now in current form. They're absolutely pivotal for Barcelona. I would rest him in this match. Look, we have a lot of games coming up. Royal Antwerp again at home should not need the full Gala 11, and I think this is the perfect moment to rest our two best players. Again, Inigo Martinez comes in, he gets his first start. Very, very good replacement, you could say, for Koundé. Gundogan, Romeu, Gavi, midfield three could easily run the show against Royal Antwerp, and again, you get to start Gundogan while also resting a key player, so both players in the end will be happy. I've gone for Ferran Torres on the left. There's no Joao Felix for me. I think the reality is that Joao Felix is on loan, so you have to prioritize the players that you pay, and you pay their wages. Of course, we have a lot of money invested in Raphinha and Ferran Torres, and they're two natural wingers as well, so I would go for them. I'd probably start Joao Felix against Celta Vigo. I don't think he's done enough to cement himself as a starter. Look, it's not. People are gonna say this in the comments. This is the agenda, but it's not. I'm honestly being serious. I think in this match, Ferran Torres would be more effective, same with Raphinha as well. Again, you want to counteract the wingers of Royal Antwerp as well. And in the end, you have to prioritize those that you invest heavy money in. I think this team absolutely walks against Royal Antwerp. You have two key rotations in Koundé and De Jong, and the squad is still absolutely unbelievable. So I think if Xavi can go with this lineup, I would be absolutely over the moon. There are some rumors that he might rest Koundé, but I'd rest Koundé and Frenkie as well. I think that's absolutely imperative, and this is the lineup that I have selected for this match. But of course, in the comments down below, let me know if you'd rather pick my lineup or Xavi's lineup. Time now for my score prediction. What do I believe the result will be in this match? I can say that the whole entire video, this should be a comfortable win for Barcelona, and I have gone Barcelona winning this match by 2-0. I think the clean sheet is very important. I think we end up keeping the clean sheet. I think we'll end up winning this game. I don't see too many goals in it. Depends again on what Xavi selects. If he selects the system that I think he'll pick with the 4 midfield, I don't see too many goals in it. Again, we are coming off the back of a 5-0 win, so I expect people to think, oh, we're going to win this game 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. I think the expectations have to be lowered a little bit because the 5-0 is, of course, very, very rare. I really have to emphasize that we have to keep this clean sheet. I think if Royal Antwerp score, not only will it look bad on us conceding against them, but also it will open up that door for Barcelona to end up maybe getting a draw in this match. I'll tell you this though, if we do not win this game, we are screwed. I do not see us passing the round of 16 if we don't end up winning this game, because these are the games that you have to win, especially at home. There's absolutely no exception whatsoever. But I think in the end, the boys will get the job done. I'm going with a very comfortable win for Barcelona by 2-0. But of course, in the comments down below, let me know what you think the score line will be. So that was a match preview for Barcelona versus Royal Antwerp in the Champions League. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, and of course, leave me your thoughts down below in the comments on everything we discussed. But the main thing I want to see, of course, is your score prediction. And secondly, on those lineups. Firstly, would you rather pick my lineup or Xavi's lineup? What do you think Xavi would go with? What would you go with? You're the manager. Leave me all your thoughts down below. And of course, make sure you guys subscribe down below as well if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for the live watch along. Set the reminder on the screen and come and join me, watch the game with me. Fall share for the match, buy my match reviews. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Big game ahead. Absolutely nothing but the 3 points. Take care and Forza Barça.
Yeah.